So while suffixes can make spelling a bit more difficult, you can learn rules such as how to spell different forms of words that end in Y, and that should make it easier for you. Now let's go back to Terry in County Wicklow to see how she's getting on.
Reviewing your learning is very important if you want to move through the 4 stages of learning that we talked about earlier. When you're reviewing your learning, you look at what you've learned, you look at what you haven't learned, you remind yourself of information that you might have forgotten, and you look at things in a new way. Keeping a record, for example a learning journal or a log, is a good way of checking what you've done. But if you haven't kept a record, you can look back at all the work you've done. Many learners don't realise how much work they've done, and it can come as a nice surprise that will boost their confidence and increase their optimism. Reviewing is very important to this week's learner, Mary. Her hobby is flower arranging, and that involves a lot of reviewing, where Mary makes an arrangement and then she takes time to look at it and makes changes.
Reviewing progress is something that was very important to the people who made these engines. They had to check to see their ideas worked and then alter them until they got it right. Now this would have been very expensive if they tried this on full-size engines, so they built small-scaled but fully working models like these and perfected their designs first.
Many of the men who built full-size versions of these in the 18th century couldn't read and write, so they took measurements from the models and simply multiplied them. Quite a clever and efficient way of building these incredible machines.
You're very welcome.
Like the workers who built steam engines from scaled models, Mary is very aware of the importance of design and preparation. She uses this to great effect in the classes she runs on flower arranging.
This is what I'm proud of. This is my flower arrangement classes I give. Only before I went back to school, I don't think I'd be given classes here in the centre. I don't think I'd be able to teach other people. For me to be teaching someone, to giving someone some part of me. Like when I see a person walking in the door and sitting down and having no confidence, and then seeing their face when they walk out with something that they have made, is a great achievement for me. Flower food. A drop of bleach when you're changing now, a tiny drop. When you're cleaning out your vase, empty it out, but only leave a tiny drop. Well, I think the more you have, the more you can give back to society. I do an awful lot of volunteer work in the community. I'm chairperson of the Active Citizenship of October, and it was with Sister Bernadette, the tutor. We were talking about it started with doing a course in Active Citizenship, learning what the area that we live in, what they need. The girls asked me would I become chairperson. From starting the course to actually having a group, it took a while.
We requested a meeting with the county manager.
And we found at the time when we started this group up that we needed traffic calming.
So you get some people that will stop for them. Yeah.
The elderly trying to cross the road was hell up here with the traffic. We're going nearly 6 years, and we have achieved a lot. We have got ramps on the road. We got dips for the wheelchair accessibility, dips in the paths. I live in Killinarden. I love Killinarden, and I am proud of it, and I want to make a better place for people to live in. That's what going back to school has done for me, has given me the confidence. I can sit with the best of people because I feel so confident in myself, where I was always a volunteer, but I'd be always in the background. I'll do the background work, but now I push myself forward. It's made me realise what I've missed out, but it's also made me realise what I can achieve. So that's what going back to school has done for me.
Clearly, Mary believes that going back to learning plays a very important part in empowering people. It's certainly given her the confidence to take on a more active role in her community.
Back when these machines were being used, many people didn't have a say in how their community worked because they didn't vote.
Well, nowadays, everyone has the right to vote. All you have to do is to make sure that you're registered. So let's find out now how to fill in a voter registration form.
Mary believes that the right to vote is an important part of playing a fuller role in society. But if you want to vote, you need to be sure that your name's on the register of electors. To do this, you need to fill out a voter registration form. You can get these from any post office, library, or by calling your local authority. The form contains 5 sections. The first one is full postal address of residence. This means the address that your letters should be delivered to. The second section asks about other households, apartments. If there are other flats or apartments at the address that you've provided, you'll need to put a tick in the box beside yes. If no one else lives at the address, then you should tick the no box. Section 3 of the form asks for details of people who are aged 18 or over, or who will be 18 by the 15th of February next. You'll need to provide their first name and surname. In this case, Mary Bulger. The next part of the form deals with citizenship. Citizenship means the country for which you hold a passport. For example, you should tick the box under Irish if you're an Irish citizen, but if you're French, for example, you tick the box under Other EU. The next section asks if the details given can be used for other purposes, such as surveys or questionnaires. Because your details are collected by your local authority, these authorities will often sell your name and address to commercial organisations who may send you advertisements or other promotional material. If you'd prefer not to have your name and address used by these companies, then you should tick the no box. In section 4, you should include the names of anyone who has moved to your address in the last year. And finally, in section 5, you fill in your signature, a contact phone number and the date. When filling out all forms, it's a good idea to make a few copies beforehand for practice. If you take your time and read each part carefully, you'll soon find that most forms ask for the same information and they're not that tricky.
Don't forget you can practice everything we've covered in today's programme and a lot more by turning to Chapter 11 of the Read Write Now workbook. All you have to do is call 1-800 20 20 65 and we'll send you out a free copy.
When you're reviewing your learning, stay focused on the positive. If you get something wrong, don't see it as a failure, see it as a result. If it's not the result you wanted, then why did you get it? Think about what you can learn from this. Learning psychologists say there's no such thing as failure, there's only a result. All results are feedback which will help you to review your learning. Then you can decide what areas you need to work on so that you'll get the results that you do want. In other words, your mistakes will eventually help you succeed. When you're reviewing your learning, don't focus on what you might see as your failures, because if you do that, you might well decide to pack it all in. Instead, try and work out why the mistakes happened. If you don't know why they happened, then ask someone, a friend, a tutor or an expert, and then with their help, you will get the result you want the next time.
This week we looked at spelling suffixes, especially words that end with the letter Y. And we looked at homophones, words that sound the same but are spelt differently.
Earlier we looked at homophones. Homophones are words that sound the same but have a different meaning and spelling. Examples include here and here, I and I, to and to. If you want to spell a homophone, you'll need to look at the words around it and then decide which form to use. Sometimes you can help yourself to remember homophones by linking them to pictures. It's all about practice and watching out for these particular words. We also looked at suffixes for words that end in Y. Changing the spelling of words that end in Y doesn't have to be difficult, as long as you remember the simple rule of checking the letter before the Y. If it's a vowel, then you can simply add endings such as full or ness. But if the letter before the Y is a consonant, then you'll need to drop the Y and add an I.
Terry was in Wicklow, where she talked to us about reviewing our learning.
Reviewing is an important part of learning because you need to understand how you've progressed and maybe in some cases why you haven't done as well as you'd hoped. And remember, if you focus on the positive aspects when you're reviewing, it'll help you to stay motivated and to get where you want to go. This week we saw how registering as a voter with your local authority is an important part of playing a fuller role in your community. What you need to do is get a copy of the Register of Electors application for registration form and fill it in following the guidelines given. Making copies to practice on is often a good idea when filling in long forms.
Mary from Killinarden explained how important learning has become to her life.
Where when I wasn't going to school, I wouldn't even look at a piece of white paper. I wouldn't fill in a form. I'd shy away from it. I'd run the opposite way. All the excuses I've used, sometimes I think I should have got an Oscar for all the excuses I used.
Well, that's it for this week. Next week is the last programme of the current series of Read Right Now. So we'll be visiting a renovated library in the heart of Dublin to find out how we learn in less formal ways. We'll also have learning points on proofreading, adjectives and text messaging. So until then, goodbye.